Hey friends of the YouTube world, my name is I'm Kinda Weird, and this week I have another story. This story is the first time I met Hailey Knox. A lot of you guys might not know who she is. She's an up-and-coming singer, and I mentioned her in my first video a couple weeks ago. She's super talented. I'm gonna start the story the day before I actually met her so you guys can kind of get an idea of the whole situation. So the day before I go and meet Hailey, I see her tweet that she's gonna be on Good Day New York the following day. When I see that tweet, I ask my dad if he would be willing to go back into Manhattan the following day, which the original plan was to just head straight home because we had a long drive because I live in North Carolina and we were in the middle of Long Island. So it's probably like an 8-hour drive. So we go through the whole day and I wait for my dad to give me an answer. When the evening came along, I went out to mini golf with some cousins that live up in New York, and we went from probably 10 o'clock to about 1 o'clock. So we get back around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I look at my Snapchat, because that's how I've been talking to Hailey. I message Hailey and I tell her that I'm going to try to show up to see her on Good Day New York the following morning. So I look at my Snapchat and I tell Hailey that I'm going to try to make it in the morning. And she says that she would like to see me there. When Hailey replies to me, I think it was about 2:30 in the morning, I go into the room where my dad's staying and I say, hey, can we go into Manhattan? My friend is going to be on this show. He says, yeah, okay, we'll go. And so we would have to get up at 5 because the show went from 7 to 10 o'clock. So I figure, you know what, I'll just stay up and then I'll just sleep on the way home. Or I would just drive all the way home and be perfectly fine. I stay up, it goes from 2:30, 3:30, 4 o'clock. Next thing I know, I'm waking up and I see daylight. And the first thing that goes through my mind is, oh man, I missed my opportunity to meet Hailey. But then I look over at the clock and it says that it's only 5:15. We were planning to leave at 5, but we still somehow made it. We get up, we get ready, we grab all our stuff, and then we go to the car. We drive about, I think it was 30-45 minutes to the subway, which we took Jamaica Station, if you're familiar with the subway up in New York. So we go down, we're waiting for the subway, and then when it shows up, we get on. We have to wait a bunch of stops, and then we get off at 53rd Street and 5th Avenue, I believe. So once we get up top from the subway, we end up walking down 53rd, 54th, 55th, and so on, down to 67th. We get to 67th Street, and then we go right. It goes from 5th Avenue to Madison Avenue to Park Avenue to Lexington Avenue, and apparently Lexington Avenue is like another name for, I think, 3rd Avenue? I don't know, it was really weird. I was really lucky that my dad had known the streets because he actually grew up by New York. So we get over there and we're on the intersection of 67th and 3rd Avenue. And I see the building and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm gonna meet Hailey. We show up and I can't look inside the windows because there were no windows. I was told by a couple family members that it was something like Good Morning America, how you could look inside, but that wasn't the case. So we get up there and then this guy asks if we're on the guest list, and of course I'm not because I had just talked to Hailey the day before and Hailey probably wouldn't have gotten me on the guest list anyway. But we're pacing back and forth, just kind of like, okay, well what do we do now? Do we just head home or do we wait? We go over onto the intersection and I believe there was a clothing store named Vineyard Vines, and there was a step out front, so I sit down there and my dad goes across the street to a Walgreens, and so my dad gets us some water. We're sitting there, we're sort of drinking. I'm on my phone, and for some reason my phone became unplugged that night, and so I was only at 50% to begin with. So I'm sitting there on my phone watching the Good Day New York because I don't know what time Hailey was actually going to go on. I just knew that she was going to be on it. I'm sitting there, so while I'm sitting there watching the show, I somehow found a Wi-Fi signal, so I was using the Wi-Fi signal, so I wasn't using data, which was good. We're sitting there, it's 7 o'clock, my phone battery is at 50%, so it starts dropping drastically, because it's an iPhone. I get down to 1%, and of course 1% is the longest percent, but then I asked my dad if I could use his phone. He says yes. I'm sitting there. We waited there for about an hour and a half, so we sat there from 7 to 8:30, and my dad says, okay, let's go. We waited here for an hour and a half. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I didn't think I was going to sit there for an hour and a half, but I did. So we walk on 67th Street back towards Central Park, and then we're going to make a left onto 5th Avenue, which would take us back to the subway station. So we're about 15 minutes into the walk back to the subway when I look at my phone, still at 1%, and Hailey tweets that she's going to be live on Good Day New York at 9 o'clock. Now, we left at 8:30 from the corner, and so it's 8:45. I say to my dad, well, now she tweeted that she's going to be on at 9, but we can just head back to the car and head home. He says, no, okay, we can turn around and go back. So we walk back, and then it's exactly a 15-minute walk, so it's 9 o'clock. I go onto my dad's phone, and now my phone's dead. My phone died right as we got back, and I'm watching, his battery starts to die. He gets down to 3%, and then Hailey comes on. This is like at just before 10, maybe around 9:50, and she plays one song, and I believe it was Geeks. And then when that's over, my dad says, okay, let's go. Now when he said let's go, he meant to the front door so I could say hi to Hailey. Now I'm not one to get nervous over anything. Like, I've met so many famous people and I haven't been nervous. For some reason, the only two people who have ever been nervous to me have been Hailey and Alex Mandel. So we get over to the door and my heart starts beating super fast, because I think that it's weird to just stand at the door and wait for her to come out, because I figured I would look like just some random fan. Not even 5 minutes after we go over to the door, she comes out and me and her make eye contact. Now for me, whenever I meet people, I get a really warm feeling inside, which may sound weird to some of you guys, but it's just something that happens. So I stand behind this guy that was already standing there, and he had some stuff for her to sign, and so she signed with him and took a picture with him. I didn't have anything for her to sign, and I didn't really need anything for her to sign. I just wanted to get a picture with her, and I would have had a conversation with her, or at least tried to, but she looked like she was in a rush, and I was too anxious at the time to say a bunch of words. We take the picture, and I'll insert the picture right now. It was so cool because when I walked up to her, she said, "Hi, Josh," and it was so cool that we already knew generally who each other were, and meeting in person was just the icing on the cake. So on the way back to the subway, this older lady comes up to me. She follows me from over at Fox, and she asked me a few questions about Hailey, and then I answer them. And she was super shocked that Hailey was only 17. She thought that she was like 23. So we get back to the subway, and then we make our trip back over to the car, and then we head home. So guys, that's my story for meeting Hailey Knox for the first time. It probably wasn't anything super exciting, but for me, it was a super awesome experience. Like I said before, in my first video on this channel, which was a couple weeks ago, she is going on tour with Charlie Puth, and all those links will be down below, all her social media and all of Charlie's. And yeah, just go show her some love. She's super talented. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to smash that like button. Comment down below any famous people who you've met or who you're going to meet. And until next time, stay you, be weird.